What's going on, everybody? It's Sunday. It's the second episode of the day, and I'm flying solo because Fruit Loop came to do the other episode, and we had some technical difficulties that just couldn't be resolved. And so she had to run somewhere. So I'm going to do this solo, and we may have to start doing some solo stuff here and there. Just it's crazy busy this summer. So we're just going to help each other out as we need it. And so I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Two Cool T-Shirt Quilts. Go check them out, twocooltshirtquilts.com/pretty lies and alibis, and see what they have. We're excited to get our quilt going, and we'll definitely show you guys the finished product when we get it. So we're going to talk quickly about Aiden Fucci. The state sent out a list of their discovery, and it's kind of interesting what they have put out. I think it's very telling. This kid's got major problems. This is just such a horrific crime in itself. And so some other things have been revealed. So let's get into it. They're going to use some audio recordings with Aiden and also with Tristan's parents. They're going to present downloaded contents of cell phones for his mother, who is also charged, if you remember, for washing the blue jeans and trying to get rid of evidence. They're also going to use downloaded contents from the cell phone of Jason Fucci, which is Aiden's father. They're going to use shoes and T-shirts collected from Fucci, results from phone subpoenas for Fucci, Jason Fucci, as well as a person identified as TB, and they did not put that name out. I kind of think maybe this is a minor. They have 5 video files and 2 JPEG files from Snapchat. Now, if you remember, when he was detained for questioning, he put that Snapchat up in the back of the police car with a peace sign up, and it said, has anyone seen Tristan lately? Which immediately I just thought this kid is out of his gourd. Surveillance videos from Aiden Fucci's residence, which I think is going to come in because they said they got mom on surveillance, washing these blue jeans and putting them back in his room. They have neighborhood videos from 5 different locations. And his next court date was scheduled for July 26th, but just this past week, he waived his right to a speedy trial. And now his pretrial has been set for September 29th, 2021. Now, remember, initially they had charged him with second-degree murder, and they upgraded that to first-degree murder based on the number of stab wounds she had. That shows intent. And as far as I know, he's being held in a juvenile detention facility, even though he's being charged as an adult. So when Aiden was told in the interrogation room by his parents that Tristan's body has been found, Aiden said, "How is that my problem?" Later on in the interrogation, Aiden said that he had tried to kiss Tristan and she rejected him. So he said he pushed her down. She grabbed him. That was kind of her response to him attempting to kiss her. And so he said he pushed her down and just left her there. He also said that he told her to F off. But we know now that the knife was recovered from the retention pond, and that knife, we believe, was Aiden's. So during a search warrant, investigators located a notebook that was Aiden's, and this just came out this past week, and there's a lot of disturbing stuff in here. Inside that notebook were drawings of a violent nature, and the drawings had satanic themes. There was a pentagram and violent drawings of women, one of which had a woman that was drawn with red X's over the breast and the genital area, and the arms had blood coming out of them. And I think the thing that bothers me a lot about this is that several people that hung out with Aiden had said that he fantasized about murdering people, and in fact pointed out those woods and said that he was going to drag somebody in there and kill them. And I think we have to tell our kids, if you hear something, you need to say something. It's clear this kid needed some kind of mental health intervention. Yeah. So the medical examiner, interestingly enough, didn't find evidence of a sexual assault. They did find, and this kind of is weird, and they haven't said where it come from, but she had a smiley face drawn on her ankle and the word karma written in blue ink. So we don't know if that's something that she did or Aiden did. It's very curious. they said her body was found lying in the wooded area on her right side. And on her, she had a gold ring, a cell phone, a $20 bill, and a cotton candy vape. So she also had a piece of fortune paper in her pocket, I assume from a fortune cookie. And that was, or no, that wasn't in her pocket. That was in a cell phone case. The sheriff's office said all of these items were covered in blood, which she was stabbed over 100 times, 146, I believe. That's just crazy. That's a lot. That is a rage killing, out of control, absolutely out of control. So what they've said this past week about some things they found during the investigation of her body is that her bra was inside out and she was wearing a black Nike brand pair of sweatpants and black and white slip-on Vans shoes. They said that her body was coming out of rigor mortis and she appeared to have skin slippage. And based on these conditions, the medical examiner estimated her time of death between 1:45 in the morning on Mother's Day and 3:30 in the morning, which was May 10th of this year. They also said that she appeared to have handprints on her upper left inner and outer thigh, her inner left calf, her inner right calf, and her upper right thigh. The handprint on Tristan's upper left thigh appeared consistent with a right hand based on the pattern of the handprint, and they determined it was not her own handprint. They were unable to pull prints off of that, though. It just wasn't developed enough. It says she had a total of 114 stab or cutting wounds concentrated to the top of her head, the back of her neck, the back of both her arms and hands, and her back. Some of the injuries to her hands were penetrating, which indicated she was fighting. It says that based on how these injuries looked, that her hands were on a hard object, and they've assumed that that's most likely her head. And so based on the nature of her injuries, it appears that the suspect, which we assume to be Aiden, was standing behind Tristan and came at a downward angle. So just really chilling stuff to think that you've got 13 and 14-year-old kids that are doing these things. I don't know. I really have a feeling that they're going to try and go the insanity defense. I don't know how it's going to go. It's very difficult because he's a minor. It's going to complicate things, and there's going to be a lot of scientific testimony, I'm sure, about brain development, and a lot of times they try to make excuses to say that his brain wasn't developed enough to know what he was doing. I completely disagree. When you stab somebody that many times, you know what you're doing. So we're just going to jump on to the Murdaugh case. SLED, which is the state law enforcement division here in South Carolina, they were in court Wednesday of last week because they're being sued by the Post and Courier, which is a paper in Charleston. And they've said that they're violating state public records by the State Public Records Act by not releasing the police reports on the murders. And when they did, as we all saw, it was pretty much redacted. So investigators are saying in their defense that they don't want to release anything else right now because they don't know what evidence is actually crucial to solving the case. Here's the issue I have with that. Number one, they've talked about forced entry just this past week. And I've always said that they must know who did this and why, because the very next day, after a double murder in a very well-to-do family, that there was no threat to the public. So I just feel like they know what's up right now and they're not putting it out there. And I get that you can't name a suspect publicly when they're investigating, but I mean, it's all very weird. I don't think there's going to be cover-ups though, because I think there's so many eyes on this case now. I still think that the FBI needs to come in and take over this case. We need to get it out of the hands of South Carolina law enforcement. Just my opinion. But they also say, the investigators say, or the law enforcement officers say, they argue if the wrong details are made public, it may affect witnesses' memories or make it hard for detectives to catch people who are lying when they're being questioned. And so SLED released a statement last week that said, at this stage of any investigation such as this, it is exceedingly difficult to know precisely what evidence, witnesses, and information are of ultimate importance and what evidence, witnesses, or information proves to be of little value. So the lawyer for the Post and Courier have said that they're not thinking about the Freedom of Information Act. They're just redacting as they see fit. That was by Edward Fenno, who's an attorney for the paper. According to what they say, a judge is going to review the redactions to see if it's warranted. But the forced entry thing is new, and it got me. So I'm curious to see if maybe they release some of this stuff a little less heavily redacted. So they have the redacted log, which tells on each page what they redacted and why. So I just want to go through that really quickly. On page 2, it says the redacted information provides details about the manner in which the crime was committed. They say the release could impede the investigation and be misconstrued by the public. On page 3, it says it was redacted because it gives details about the vehicles found at the crime scene as well as who found the victims. I thought Alex found the victims. We've been told that he was the one that discovered the bodies. Curious to see if there was anybody else there with him. I'm not sure why they're redacting that at this point. On page 4, the redacted information provides details about evidence seized from the crime scene, as well as which individuals were present at the incident location. On pages 6 and 7, the redactions provide details about evidence seized from the crime scene and individuals present at the incident location. So it's kind of the same as before. On page 8, the redacted information provides details about the location of a body at the crime scene. On pages 9, 10, 11, 16, and 17, the redacted information provides details about the canvass performed by law enforcement, which contains information about which homes have video cameras. And my question for that is, why would you not just redact the addresses from what you release? Clearly, they've got surveillance from neighbors nearby or even on the Murdaugh property. And I kind of found it hard to believe that as wealthy as they were and as prominent as they were, they wouldn't have trail cams and then surveillance around the house, which I'm curious to see what's on there. I mean, if this was an inside job in the family, well, it would be easy to disconnect those cameras, which would be a big clue. So on page 12, the redacted information provides details about the location of a body from the crime scene. So that's the same as above. So clearly, this is about both victims. On page 13, the redacted information provides details about steps taken by law enforcement to interview a potential witness or subject to this double homicide. Very curious. Pages 14 and 15, the redacted information provides details about the vehicles found at the crime scene, the manner of injury to the victims, and the firearms seized. So that was kind of big for me. So they're seizing firearms from the scene. So it seems to me if this was a hit or people came in to do the murders, I don't think they would leave their guns there. So why are they seizing firearms from the scene unless at some point Paul had a firearm, maybe Maggie, we don't know. But I don't know if really any criminals that just leave the murder weapon at the crime scene. And this is why I think there's such a push to put this stuff out there. It's South Carolina law, though, that this stuff has to be released. So on page 17, the redacted information provides details about the canvass performed by law enforcement, which contains information about which homes have video cameras. So sometimes this is kind of repetitive. I'm curious to see what the judge rules. I do think maybe we'll get some more information. They've been accused of just being very heavy-handed with the redactions, and as we know, they were. Because we've seen what they put out there, and it was just, some pages were completely black almost. And the last thing that I want to cover, and tomorrow, again, we should be getting all of the 2,500 documents to pour through. So that's going to be my job for the next few days, is seeing what is in there. We just want to see for ourselves what is going on and what we can find. So if we see anything of interest, photos, videos, we're going to go ahead and tweet those out, put them on Facebook. We're not going to hold on to them. And then later this week, we'll do an episode about all this. But this letter was written by Charles. And this is during the time where Lori left Charles and JJ. And he was reaching out to her. And the thing, and this just came out, Justin Lum just put this out after we had done our last episode. So about an hour or two ago. And man, it's just, again, we see kind of like with Kay, how she was very graceful and nice to Lori when she was obviously super worried about JJ and wanting to see him. She was still being civil. And very much like Charles in this letter. So you have to remember, she's kind of gone crazy at this point. He knows something's up with her, and he's just trying to get on the same page for their child. So I'm going to read this letter, and this is the last thing we're going to talk about. It says, Lori, the purpose of this email is, again, try and establish a family connection with you and our son. Also, clarify the facts as I've seen them, regardless of where you want to go with a divorce. It's been 38 days since you've made any contact with us. And I think that's a big deal. As a mother, I can't imagine going a day without contacting my kids. But to just disappear for 38 days, I think to me that's a big indication that Lori was never super maternal or had that bond with JJ, because you don't leave a child you love for 38 days without any contact. Charles goes on to say, this is necessary because when I saw Alex this past Saturday, he made me aware that I had somehow taken JJ and tried to put you in jail. What Alex said was confusing. I was really further confused than the entire family that the entire family had refused contact, not just with me, but also with JJ. That's a big deal. So I don't think we include Adam and Zach in this, but he's obviously indicating that Lori's family as a whole wouldn't even talk to JJ, and that's just sad. This is a child. So it says, Lori, on January 30th, I received a call from you stating that you were done and all of my stuff was gone from the house. I flew back to Phoenix and find that my truck, along with my wallet and keys, had been taken from the airport. I also saw that $35,000 was taken from the business account by you. $22,000 was to be paid the next day to other reps. I called the police to file a vehicle theft report. While explaining the circumstances to the police officer also suggested I stop by and talk to a place called Bridges about your involvement. They're the ones that ordered the psych eval. Once home, the Gilbert police helped me break into our own home. When I got in, I discovered everyone was gone. Also, JJ's clothes, JJ's favorite iPad, my clothes, work computer, and even Bailey's training collar were all gone. The next morning, I got a rental car and went to JJ's school. When you entered the gates with JJ, I did go to your car and retrieved your purse. You obviously had a spare set of keys and left. I texted you asking to return my things and I would give you back your purse. You responded by text telling me where my truck and clothes could be found. You also asked me to drop off your purse with Angela when I picked up JJ from school that day, which I did. On the same day, Kay received a text from you. She didn't tell me about it until Friday, February the 1st. I would assume this is 2019. I was shocked beyond belief when I read it. In case you don't recall, here it is. Unfortunately, this is redacted. This is not, we can't see what is said. So I have no clue. It says, Lori, if it somehow makes you feel better to make these kind of accusations, then I certainly can't stop you. But for the record, you and I both know it's ridiculous. You are my one and only for 14 years, period. So we know that clearly Lori texted Kay that Charles is having an affair. She pulled the wool over her family's eyes because we know that nobody was reaching out to Charles or even listening to him other than Adam and Zach, as far as the Cox family goes. It's just crazy. And to think that they did that with JJ as well when she was absent, it's just insane. So it says, only after hearing this from Alex did I begin to put the pieces together. Lori, you are the only one whose response I will accept to the following offer. On Friday, March 15th, I will have all my stuff vacated from the house. You may have it back on Saturday, March 16th. I will continue to pay all the bills, and you and I can work out a schedule with JJ. I will also schedule a locksmith to change all the locks for you. And I think that's a big deal because you have Charles right now. The whole Cox family is ignoring him without, Adam and Zach being involved in that clearly. He's still saying, I'm going to pay for your house, all your expenses. I'm going to even pay to have the locks changed for you so I can't get back in the house. And we know at this point he was paying for a lot of phones and that sort of thing. And it says, I need to know if this is acceptable by Monday morning, March 11th. I'm unaware of your wants and needs because you have not contacted me in any way or responded to any of my efforts. If you have not contacted me, the only conclusion I can draw is that after 38 days, you and your family no longer want communication with JJ. This will be your choice. And he put the word your in all caps. I'm going to take action and continue to take care of JJ because I'm not getting any response from you. I have no other choice. You've taken away all his family here. It makes us both really sad, and I really hurt for him. You're his mother. He misses you. Please agree to see your son, Charles. And that's just, it's so heartbreaking because at this point, Charles realizes that, like all of the other men in her past, she's going to play dirty and try to dirty him up. And even in spite of that, his only concern is normalcy for their son. And we all know the end of the story, but it's really, really sad to read this kind of stuff as it's released because you see that Charles really did everything he possibly could to try and get through to Lori. And even though in this email, he was pretty much acknowledging that by her standard, the marriage was over. I do believe this is before they reconcile briefly in Texas. So you see the lengths that he was willing to go through just to make sure that she was safe and happy and that JJ was happy and got to see his mother. So I just wanted to hop on and do this. I really wish Fruit Loop could have been here. It just, time was crazy. We already did one today, but we know that there's maybe some more news coming out this week about the Murdaughs, especially if they issue those what was redacted and they re-release stuff with new information we can read about. So we just wanted to hop on and kind of catch up on the stories that's, I mean, every day it seems like something's breaking. There's just news coming out for the next couple of days. Hopefully I will be able to get those documents tomorrow. I'm going to be pouring over those, but like I said, as soon as I come across something that is what I think you guys would like to see or is interesting, I'm going to shoot that out. So keep an eye on all of our social media pages, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of it. If there's any pictures or videos, I will definitely upload those to Instagram as well. So that's all. And if anything big happens, we'll hop back on and do another one. But in the meantime, I hope you have a very good Sunday evening. See you soon.